I am Tribal Gamer. Something that started out so small and has grown into such a stamp on this earth, to be perfectly honest. The amphibian phenom.
So I said it out loud. I was kind of like, am I seeing this correctly? 10 shots and 8 goals.
Oh my god.
This is the essence of gaming. It's not your normal podcast. We're talking about real shit. We're talking about how this invention changed our world. Let's go out there, make the world a better place, and treat each other with respect. Game on.
What's going on?
Frogman, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm really excited about today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about, guys, esports and what it is, the crazy hype train that's been going on in the past decade, and kind of where it all originated, where we're at today, and maybe how you can get involved with it. But first, so Froggy last episode talked about Fabledom in his 2 minutes game of the week. And this week it's my turn. So we're going to start off with that. Froggy, do you have the timer ready?
Got it.
All right. So the game I'm going to talk about today is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES. All right. So this is a childhood favorite of mine. And these kids today don't know how cool the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were back when, I was a young buck, but they were the coolest thing since sliced bread, I promise you. And my first Nintendo system was the NES, and it wasn't one of the first games I got, but I do remember it was my favorite game that I got on the NES. And how it worked was, it was a side scroller for the most part when you were doing battles and you were fighting the bad guys, and you'd have to get through these levels. And when you came out, you kind of unlocked an open world type of game, and it was a top view, and you got to, drive the van. And I remember this one mission that none of my friends could beat, which was the electric seaweed mission. And there it is, right there. Yes, Froggy. So if you're watching this on YouTube, he's got a picture of it up right now. This was the level nobody could beat. But if you beat it, the game got so much better. And I remember out of all my friends, I was the first to beat it, but I only had one Ninja Turtle left. And when you get past it, the game even opens up even more. Now, for games today, like, you have open world, you have open universes. But back then on the NES, there were no such things as open worlds. It was like Super Mario Brothers was a side scroller, and it was just levels, and that was it. And most games were like that. Ninja Gaiden was like that. This had some sort of open world where you could kind of explore and try these different levels and try different paths on beating, the missions, and you still have the same bad guys and whatnot. But what I remember most about this game was just the nuance of what I loved about the cartoon, what I loved about the movie, and it brought it all together and gave you just a really fun gaming experience on a system that was top of the line at the time. And it was something unreal at the time. And the fact that it was Ninja Turtles, I mean, even to this day, my favorite pajamas are Ninja Turtle pajamas. Like, I am a fanboy of Ninja Turtles, and this game hit it for me. Now, not all of them did. Like, I personally am not a fan of the arcade Ninja Turtle games, but I did like some of them, like Turtles in Time. If you ever played that, I think that was on Super Nintendo. But the arcade one, like, it was fun because you got to play with your buddies. but I never liked playing with my buddies because they all sucked. They were the ones that were, on the first level walking into the fire and dying, and we would never get past, level 2. And I remember, the nostalgia of how difficult this game was, but the feeling when you pass that seaweed level was amazing. It was amazing. And you don't have games like that nowadays. And I guess that's why there's a market for retro gaming. And right now, I guess if you go on the Microsoft shop, you can get the Ninja Turtle collection, and this game's actually on it. And it has all the old school Super NES, even Game Boy Advance Ninja Turtle games. And so like that's actually a pretty cool pickup. And the only game I would want, honestly, if I'm going to spend money on Ninja Turtle games, is going to be this one. And I promise you, I'll still play it today, and I'll still lose every time with the electric seaweed, but it's still going to be a blast, and I'm still going to remember like certain tricks and stuff about the game that, like we were talking earlier off air about Donatello and being able to use the staff to hit through floors and stuff like that. Like that was something you learned to do. And if you didn't have Donatello, well, you were almost SOL because there were so many hard parts where you kind of needed them. But that is my game of the week. If you haven't tried it, go out and try it. I guarantee you're going to have a good time. I wanted to go with something that, reminded me of my childhood and, what motivates me to do the podcast that we're doing, which, my whole life I've been into video games, and there's a huge influence in, enjoyable moments that I have had through playing video games. And so I wanted to bring in some nostalgia, and that's why I chose Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How much time do I got left, Froggy?
I let you go over a bit because it was a little nostalgic game. Let you kind of go on for a little bit longer than you had, but I think it's all good. If you want to go a little bit longer, you got it.
All right. So I got to cheat a little bit. Next week, Froggy will have the game of the week. But if you haven't played it, go try it out, guys. It is a lot of fun. All right. So before we get into the actual episode, don't forget to go on to Facebook and Twitch and what else are you on, Froggy? What Facebook, Twitch, TikTok. You're
YouTube.
Everywhere now. YouTube. Oh, and Discord. That was the
Discord,
one that was lingering on the tip of my tongue. Go to those platforms. Check out Sylvir Gecko Gaming. My man Froggy streams pretty much, almost every day, at least a little bit, but almost 12 hours a day. Plays an eclectic, wide range of video games and PC and console. We play in a league in NHL. Froggy, tell them a little bit about Sylvir Gecko Gaming, and then we'll get to the episode.
Well, the league's actually why I started streaming in the first place. I was just going to test it out for a couple days to get it set up so that I could stream the league games, and had a couple people pop in and follow, and then some of my friends popped in, and then people I didn't know popped in, and by about the third day, I decided just to give it a try, and it's kept going great. So I just kept building it, and I kind of stream during the days, and then before and after, I kind of try to add a little bit to it every day, and it's kind of just slowly evolving and building into a pretty cool little community. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Awesome. And just so you guys know, that's SYLVIR Gecko Gaming. SYLVIR Gecko Gaming. All right. So it is now part of the podcast where we talk about the analytics of where we're at. We want to bring you on this journey because you are our biggest supporters. And so as of right now, we have a total of 33 plays all time. Thank you, guys. We're averaging about 10 plays per episode. So we got 3 episodes up. One of them is just an update. If you haven't listened to that, if you listen to episode 1, we do have an update episode, which actually talks about the game, College Football 25 by EA Sports, and what's in it, what we're really excited about with the announcements. And if you haven't checked it out, go on YouTube. There are some videos of game footage. It looks real nice. But please keep sharing the love and keep sharing the podcast. So we're at 1,008 impressions, and everybody always asks us what are impressions. So just to explain real quick, Froggy, can you explain what impressions are?
Yeah, it says right here, this is the number of times your show or any of your episodes were shown to anyone on Spotify over the last 30 days. So if you go right here, it says like through Spotify search, things people type in there, 783 times that an episode of ours has popped up when someone searched for something. 223 has shown up on Spotify Home, 16 on Spotify Library. I'm not exactly sure what that is exactly. I'll have to look it up, but that's kind of the breakdown so far of the ones that it's tracked.
All right, so it's definitely getting out there, and we're definitely getting listens, guys. But you guys can help us the most by sharing it with your friends, sharing it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is you kids do nowadays. Please help us out. Share it with your friends. They don't have to listen to it, but we think they'll really enjoy it. So, all right, let's go to the interact. We've got some people that have voted on some of our surveys and a couple comments that we wanted to share with you guys. Let's go to Houston. We have touchdown. I think we got one comment there and published. All right, so we got Maverick Crappa. It was great, very well done. It was refreshing to hear people talk more about the social aspect and feeling of gaming rather than the numerous podcasts discussing just features, tips, and tricks, etc. And thank you, Maverick, for saying something. We agree with you 100%. That's why we wanted to do this, is talk about, some real shit about video games, not just, the normal everyday. Back in the day, we called it G4 TV. Remember that, Froggy? G4
Oh, yeah.
TV. But thank you for saying something, and we look forward to future messages from you guys. Please let us know what you think. All right, let's go to the votes. All right,
Which
what
one do you
game
wanna start
mode
with?
are you looking forward to the most? This is talking about college football 25. All right, so we got one vote for Road to Glory and one vote for Online Versus. Well, looks like we got a tie. So, Froggy, what would you vote for?
Well, it's hard. If I was going to play by myself, probably Dynasty mode because that's a lot of fun. If I was going to play online with people, probably the Online Versus because that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm going to be playing a lot with you and other people online.
What if they have online Dynasty mode?
I mean, that'd be really cool too. Yeah, if they had that, that would be awesome. I didn't
that
look
would
at
be
that yet, but
Dynasty mode would be my pick.
like they've got
if they have online Dynasty.
Yeah, they've got like Madden, they've got like connected franchise or whatever they call it in Madden. So I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they had it on here.
Yeah. I would have to go with, since I don't know it's online Dynasty or not, we don't know yet. I'm gonna have to go with Road to Glory, so that's gonna have to be our winner. And the only reason I say that is because I remember when they first came out with that, and it was a game changing, no pun intended, a game mode, and I really enjoyed it. You got to feel like you were, playing on your college football team, and obviously as a Husker fan, that was a dream come true.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, let's go to the next one up. Is the MVP package worth it to you? We got one vote, and it's 100% yes. And I would agree with that. I mean, if you're getting 2 games with it that were going to be that price anyways, and most likely you're going to get them anyways, might as well and get
the special
3-day
version,
early
not
access
just
special version. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I would agree. I think they did really good with that. And the last one, have you made a friendship with someone you met online playing video games? And
I think I know who did this.
Your choices were yes, no, or I don't talk to strangers. And we actually we got one vote for I don't talk to strangers. And I think you and I, if we were to put money on that, I think it would be our buddy Stag. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it wasn't for thinking it was him, I would say congratulations, your parents are doing something right, but I'm pretty sure it was him.
Yeah, and he is kind of a guy that he probably doesn't talk to strangers. hence why, we randomly met, and I just had to annoy him every day before he started talking to me. Kind of like how I met you guys. And then, but we had 3 people say yes and 0 people say no. We got 4 votes on that. Thank you guys. And that's really awesome that there's 3 people out there, and I'm sure thousands and hundreds of thousands more that have made, meaningful friendships through playing video games, whether it's online or sitting down on the couch next to, next to a buddy. All right. Well, that's the analytic section. Let's talk about esports, Froggy. And I'm really excited for this one. I don't know if I told you this, but I used to play Halo. And I always considered I played Halo professionally because I would play in tournaments and I would win money if I, placed in these tournaments. Now, it's not like the kind of money that you're seeing nowadays. And we'll talk about the money a little bit in this episode, but it was a citywide tournament, and I won $500, and then a spot in the state tournament, and there I won an Xbox and a bunch of games. I didn't win first place in the state. I wasn't that good, but I considered, and I tell people that I used to be a professional gamer. And I guess when you use that term professional gamer, it can be interpreted in a lot of ways. And I think that's what kind of this episode is mainly about, is what is esports? What is the term professional gamer, or what's the term sport even mean? And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can already see the definition of what esports is. And a lot of this information, we went to Wikipedia, but we do have a few other articles that we're going to bring in as well. So you feel free to jump on YouTube to watch this, because the information will be up on the screen for you, and the websites will be displayed for you. And I will try to read as much as possible, as much as I can anyways, for those of you that are not watching on YouTube and you're just listening. But esports, it's short for electronic sports. It's a form of competition using video games. Esports often takes the form of organized multiplayer video game competitions, particularly between professional players, played individually or as a team. All right, so Froggy, when you hear the word sport, what do you think of?
Well, it's hard because that's changed a lot in the last 15 or so years. Because when I was growing up, I thought of, I played soccer growing up. I played soccer all the way through college. So soccer, football, something where you got out and were active and physical, and that kind of thing is what I would have thought of growing up my entire life. But then in the last 10 to 15 years, now it's, any competition, whether it's, chess or other board games or video games, or all this stuff is now being considered a sport, and people are spending their entire lives mastering these different things, whether it's board games or card games or video games like we're talking about. So it's kind of evolved from when I was younger till now. So I kind of think of it now as any game or competition where people can try to be better than the other person, whether it's solo or as a team, to try to win whatever the goal is of that game or competition.
Okay, so you are more on the side of if there is a skill-based competition, and I think that's the key word, competition.
Yeah.
You could consider it a sport.
Now, yeah, not as much when I was younger, but now I've started to see it a little differently.
Yeah, and I would agree with you 100%. Back when I was in high school, middle school, grade school, a sport was athletic, and that's kind of the other side of sport is, a lot of people think it has to be athletic. There has to be like a fitness to it, and it has to be something that's competitive as well. And so when we go into talking about esports, we have to kind of open and broaden our mind a little bit. And we have to, like you said, like keep up with the times here, because I'm on the older half of life, I would say, and it's hard for me to keep up with these kids sometimes. um, but I'm going to open up my mind, and I'm going to take in all the information that is provided for us, and at the end of this, I'd like us to like re-talk about what sport truly means and what the definition is. And by the way, the definition, if you go online and check it out, back in our day, it would be the Webster's Dictionary. You get some of you probably don't even know what a dictionary is.
Yeah.
But anyways, the definition of sport is an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. Team sports such as baseball and soccer. Ooh, that was I wasn't expecting to see entertainment in there. The other
Oh, did it?
definition,
Yeah.
yeah, for entertainment, it says.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then the second one is a person who behaves in a good or specified way in response to teasing, defeat, or a similarly trying situation. Go on, be a good sport. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so in the definition, it does say physical exertion.
Mm-hmm.
So by them saying esports, can they say there's physical exertion? And we're gonna get into that. But let's go ahead. Let's start from the beginning of esports and where it kind of derived from, and let's talk about the first tournament ever. I'm sure there's some people that have some wild guess of when they think the first video game tournament was, and probably what game it was. Froggy, do you know what year the first tournament for a video game was?
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember what it was. I thought in my brain I was thinking it was like the 80s, but I feel like it's earlier than that. So like maybe the 70s. I feel like I was surprised when I saw how early it was.
Give me a year. Pick a year out of thin air.
1977.
You're close.
Am I?
1972.
Oh, okay. That's
So
earlier.
it was
Yeah. So I remember being surprised. I thought it was like 85 or something, but it's a lot earlier than I thought.
You and me both. I thought it was gonna definitely be in the 80s. Once like the NES, which was like a
Yeah, so I was thinking
household
the NES
mainstream thing, right?
time
Or
frame, yeah.
maybe Pong on like in television or whatever. Like
Uh-huh.
maybe those things, but I never
Yeah.
would have thought in 72. I didn't even realize there were video games out in 1972. And
Yeah.
I guess this was held at Stanford University. The game was called Space War, and the winner won a year subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. I guess I didn't realize Rolling Stone magazine had been around that long.
That old?
either.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know that was around since then either.
That's crazy. 1972. That was a long time ago, and I'm curious what that game looked like. Space War.
I bet I
I
could.
wonder if we've ever seen it. Yeah, see if you can bring that up.
What was it, 1972?
1972 is called Space War.
Oh, geez.
Well,
Is that the screen?
Oh, that's it.
Holy cow, that's
That's
crazy.
And
It's
they had a
like
tournament.
dots.
It looks like a submarine. Like, so for those of you that can't see this, it literally, like, if you've ever seen any submarine movie and they have
Yeah.
the radar and there's a bunch of dots
yeah.
and stuff, that is literally what this looks like.
Yeah.
Straight out of, like, I'm not
Couple
surprised.
lines, maybe.
These have been used in movies for radar for a submarine. Like, it looks so
Yeah.
crazy.
There's like a couple lines, a couple circles, and just dots. No wonder people were confused by it back in the day.
Yeah.
Wasn't this the one we talked about a couple episodes ago where they were saying that it was like, yeah, because it was too confusing or complicated. People didn't understand how to play it, so they came out with Pong next or something.
Well,
think that was,
maybe
or
that's why they had a tournament to get people to learn how to play it.
Yeah.
And there was a select few.
that's why I had to be at the university. You needed a
Yep.
college degree to understand how to play it.
Yep. Yep. That's crazy. That I mean, that looks old.
Yeah.
That just looks old.
Like
Man.
that's a modern. It looks like it's kind of like fisheye or like kind of rounded almost the screen too.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I
Yeah,
wonder
right
what
there.
they
That's
called those graphics. You know how there's like 4K out? Like what would that be?
negative 4K.
Yeah. All right, so that was when the first tournament was. And then in Japan, and I'm not even surprised by this. They actually have a TV video game championship. And I guess the prize for that was a color and black and white TV. So
Oh wow.
I guess they had multiple TVs, which back then that was a huge prize.
Yeah.
That was probably like winning a car nowadays on
Yeah,
Wheel of
that's-
Fortune.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
But they had 300 different locations across is that just across Japan. And basically I guess there were local tournaments held in 300 locations across Japan, and then 16 finalists from across the country competed in the final elimination rounds at Tokyo's Hotel Pacific. Prizes awarded included television sets, color and black and white, cassette tapes, recorders, and transistor radios. According to Sega, the tournament provided to be the biggest event ever, or proved, sorry, the tournament proved to be the biggest event ever in the arcade game industry and was attended by members from leading Japanese newspapers and leisure industry companies. So basically, this is when it became somewhat popular. Like they knew something big was about to happen with video games. Like this, I mean, at least Japan knew. I mean, they're holding tournaments across 300 different locations, and
that
that's
big of a
probably
turnout.
all over Japan, because Japan is not like the US. It is a small island.
Yeah.
And across 300 locations, there was probably a huge turnout for that. And to be giving away TVs,
Yeah, color
and
TVs and
cassette
stuff back then,
yeah.
those are some big, you'd have to have a lot of money to be putting something like that on.
And then I guess in 77, Gremlin Industries, a year before being acquired by Sega, held a marketing stunt to promote their early arcade snake game, Hustle, in the United States, involving the Gremlin Girls, who were a duo of professional female arcade players called Sabrina Osmond and Lynn Reed. The pair traveled across 19 American cities, where players could challenge them in the best of 3 matches for a chance to win money. The duo were challenged by a total of 1,300 players, only about 7 of whom managed to beat them. So even back then,
Jeez.
gaming was popular with the females. And like there's always been that stereotype, right? Like
Oh yeah.
like video games has always been a guy's thing to do, but nah, man, like I know lots of girls that play video games. Now
Yeah.
they might not be playing hockey like Hippie, like
No.
she's a rare one for sure. But you know,
Yeah.
I do know, like, especially nowadays, like it's become accepted that anybody and everybody plays these games, right?
I mean, you go into a Call of Duty game, and if you're not in the first lobby you're in, at least the second one, you're going to hear girls talking, because it's just, I was surprised how common Call of Duty is to have girls playing in it too. Like they're playing all kinds of games everywhere now. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So after that, scroll down a little bit. We're going to skip ahead to 1984. And
1984.
Konami and Century jointly held an international track and field arcade game competition that drew more than 1 million players from across Japan and North America. Playmeter in 1984 called it the Coin Op event of the year, and an event on a scale never before achieved in the industry. As of 2016, it holds the record for the largest organized video game competition of all time, according to Guinness World Records. So, I mean, and that was in 84. That was the year. That was the year I was born, man. Video games were loved, like, even then. Like, and it's no wonder it's there's this big boom going on right now. And I think it's, back then it wasn't as accepted. There was no career path being
Oh
good at
no,
video games, correct? Like,
no.
what are you going to do with your life if you're good at video games in 1984? Not
Play
not
slot machines?
much. Like, that's,
I don't know.
yeah, maybe. I mean, like, it was definitely more of a hands-on type of work skills that you needed.
Yeah, blue
Um,
collar type
all right, so
stuff. That's incredible.
All right, so and then the 1988 game Trek was an internet game for up to 16 players, written almost entirely in cross-platform open source software. Trek was the third internet game, the first internet game to use meta servers to locate open game servers, and the first to have persistent user information. In 1993, it was credited by Wired magazine as the first online sports game. Okay. Can you find that, Froggy?
Trek? Yeah.
Trek.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it's getting a little more. I didn't really
advanced for sure.
Yeah, like tactical and galactic.
And you're talking to other people. I mean, obviously through text. Through a computer.
But like, there's like little, like almost pictures, like almost little graphics, like
planets. Those must be planets.
See, trying to, it's kind of getting blurry and I zoom in, but yeah, it's like planets, and like it's a sport game. I'm trying to figure out what kind of sport it was trying to be.
I think maybe it was
like Galaga, maybe,
as in like competition, like we.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Are thinking of sport as a competition, so there might be like points involved, because I know in Super Mario Brothers, like they had the whole high score system, and they brought points into the game. That was to make it more competitive, so they could have tournaments and have it to where you could have somebody that's the best and be able to promote them and be able to like always like that dopamine of being the best, right? Being competitive.
I mean, that's why they had those little NES cartridges where they would have those NES World Championship stuff, and right around the same time frame. And Nintendo's actually releasing that cartridge that they had back in the day for NES on the Switch next month. So you can actually play those World Championship little mini versions of the games where they had little tournament runs, speed run type games. They've got them all on here from all the tournaments they did back then. It's kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
It's like you can go and pick like all the little mini ones.
World record stats for it too.
I would think that it would. Like, it's got online play. You can like do online tournaments and stuff with friends or other people. Like, it looked like it'd be interesting. It has like, it's broken down by game, so you have like the different game, and then there's like all the different. Oh yeah, it looks like, see, it says the time down underneath them.
Oh, yep.
So like, it looks like it does have each one has like a time. It says if it's like the A plus, like the grade. So it looks like there's, different game and all the different little ones, which is kind of cool, because I wasn't old enough or around or didn't have, access to, like, most people that played NES didn't have access to these tournament cartridges. Like, those were at tournaments, or the select people that were going to be competing had them to practice or whatever. But, that wasn't really a super common thing, I don't think, back then to have. So I think it's kind of cool they're putting it out on Switch and then having it be available for everyone to play online if they want with other people. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have some of these old people that play these tournaments back in the day starting to get back into it, and have people now getting into it for the first time. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some more tournaments happening now that this is coming out next month. Much easier to play with the Switch.
I've definitely noticed a big surge in retro gaming. I see a lot of these young kids even playing these old school Mario games stuff, and
like Donkey Kong
beating
and stuff,
world records set back in '84 and stuff.
Yeah,
there's
a 13-year-old that
definitely
beat the
coming
Tetris
back.
one. It's the first human to what's it called? A kill screen Tetris. Like they thought only AI could do it. It was like, he's a 13-year-old kid. I can't think of his name, but I saw an article the other day, and I watched his like thing, and he did it and like broke the game because it couldn't go any higher. And before that point, it was thought that it was impossible for a human to be able to do it because it was only computers that had done it to that point. So it's kind of crazy to see young kids starting to do stuff like that now
right?
on these
And
older
you know,
games.
on these older games, that's the crazy thing. Like,
Yeah.
what I always hear about is, graphics and how good it looks and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
And you're missing out on so many
Yeah.
just fun, like very like unique and like challenges your mind style games out there
Yeah, like
because you're so
Tetris
caught
or
up on
whatever
how it
else.
looks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were
And
playing
anything.
what played up
Oh
played
yeah,
up
yeah.
on Game Pass, like
Yeah.
that we had a freaking blast,
It
bro.
looks like a
And
dumb little like
it
kids game
does.
with little cartoony people, and you like sometimes you can't even grab the plate because you like bounce off each other. And I mean,
I was rolling. I was
yeah.
laughing so hard. I
Oh
was
yeah.
rolling. And like, you know, there are some people out there that don't even give those games a chance. And those are some of the best ones out there. I truly believe. Like,
Oh
the
yeah.
Ninja Turtle games I talked about earlier, like, those types of games, even though they don't look great, like ingenuity, that's the
Yeah.
thing I
The
think the word that
gameplay.
comes to my
The
mind. You
yeah.
have yeah, you have to think inside the box because it's not real life feel. Like you have to
Yeah.
think, all right, how it's more of a puzzle
Yeah. How does the
and it
mechanic
takes
work?
more
How does this
skill.
game work? Yeah, that kind of thing. And you have to figure out the puzzle, the challenge. You have to figure out what they're trying to get you to do too, which isn't always evident like some of the games now where they like highlight a little exclamation mark. You're supposed to talk to him or do this or click on
Yeah,
this.
yep. Yep. Or follow the trail because you hit the back button
Oh
and it
yeah,
tells
yeah,
you the way
yeah.
to go. Or
Mm-hmm.
yep. All right, so let's move. I mean,
Back
I
here.
love talking about NES games and
Yep.
stuff, but let's move a little bit
To
forward to like Super
91.
NES games.
It's like 91
Yes.
Street Fighter or
Street Fighter. Let's talk about Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Marvel versus Capcom. Let's
yeah,
talk
all in the
about
90s. All right.
where the
Fighting games.
competition side of games start happening. So, one thing that game developers realized was when they started making these games, people were getting competitive over high scores and stuff. And that's why they started having these, competitions and all of that. And so they wanted to implement, games that were solely on finding who's the best at it, right? And so they created fighter games. So I'm sure you've heard of Street Fighter. I'm sure you've heard of Marvel versus Capcom. I'm sure you've heard of Mortal Kombat. These games were created to have a game that had an atmosphere of being able to have tournaments and being able to go against your buds
Yeah.
and have a competition.
One on
And
one if
so
you wanted.
yeah. And so in 1991, Street Fighter II popularized the concept of direct tournament level competition between two players. Previously, video games most often relied on high scores to determine the best player, but this changed with Street Fighter II, where players would instead challenge each other directly face to face to determine the best player, paving the way for competitive multiplayer and deathmatch modes found in modern action games. The popularity of fighting games such as Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom in the 90s led to the foundation of the International Evolution Championship Series, EVO,
I watched those
esports
most
tournament in
years.
1996. What's crazy is like back then it was the access to be able to watch those isn't what
Oh
we have
yeah.
today, right?
Oh no. Now
Like
you can
now
watch it with anywhere, but back then I don't even know how you would watch it back then, honestly. Maybe
you
on a
probably had to pay
cable
for it on
channel or like a
pay-per-view or
pay-per-view
something like
or
that.
maybe
Yeah.
G4 would have it. I don't know.
I don't even think G4 was around then. I think
In
G4 came
1990.
out
Oh
after
yeah.
2000 because I don't think it
That's
was
true. I
out
think
when
I
I
was
was in high school.
Yeah, it's true. I think it was later. Yeah, I think you're right.
But you probably saw some ads for it in
Like
those
game
tips and tricks
magazines and stuff.
magazines or Nintendo Power. Yeah, remember
Yeah.
those? Like I had a stepbrother that had like every issue, every single one from issue number one till their last issue of Nintendo Power. He
Oh,
kept
that'd be
every
worth
single one,
so much.
mint condition, bro. Like he knew what he
Wow.
was doing, and yeah,
That's
he's
cool.
an avid gamer
There you go.
to this
Co-hosted
day.
by Game Pro
Um,
magazine right there.
Yep, there we go. There we go. Um, you start seeing a lot more competitive style games. They name NBA Jam, virtual racing. It's more geared. Games are more geared to being competitive
Oh,
against
Second World Championship.
multiplayer types.
That's that game. This is where that game was. Nintendo held the Second World Championship.
Oh,
That's what that game we're just
in
talking about. It's from
1994.
here. This is
Okay.
what the second one is. That those games.
Well, and man, do you remember that movie, The Wizard? I'm not talking
Uh
about Harry Potter. I'm
no,
not talking about Harry Potter.
yeah, Hogwarts. No. Like it sounds familiar. I think I did see it. What was it about again?
O-
See if
Okay,
I can
so
remember
do
it.
you know Fred Savage? He
Oh
was
yeah.
in
Uh
Wonder
Friday.
Years.
Oh, Wonder Years. Yeah.
Wonder Years. He's one of the main actors in this movie.
Oh,
And
okay.
basically what it's about is his stepbrother keeps trying to run away and they think he's autistic and he wants to go see these dinosaurs. And so his brother, older brother, basically takes him on this road trip and they are just basically trying to run away and they run into this girl and they have to make some money and while they're with this girl on the road they come across this magazine and it talks about this tournament and she's like, hey, if he wins this tournament, do you think they could force him to go into a home? And so the whole object is for them to go to this Nintendo gaming tournament in
Mm-hmm.
Orlando. This kid's like a genius with video games, and he's everywhere he goes, he's playing these kids for money so they can pay for bus fares and stuff like that.
Okay.
But what I remember about the game is the video game tournament. And when I was a kid and watching that, I always wanted to be in a video game tournament and always thought I could do really well in a
Yeah.
video game tournament. And if you've never seen it, Froggy, go watch it. Like it'll bring
Yeah, I'm
back
not
a lot
sure
of
if I
flashback
did, but I'll
memories, but it's a
check it
great
out.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's one of those movies that, I'll buy, even though it's really, really old. I can watch it over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on, you guys are done hearing about The Wizard, but go watch it. In the 90s, many games benefited from increasing internet connectivity, especially PC games. Inspired by the fighting game Street Fighter II, Fatal Fury, and Art of Fighting, id Software's John Romero established competitive multiplayer in online games with Doom's Deathmatch mode in 1993. Tournaments established in the late 1990s include the Cyber Athlete Professional League, QuakeCon, and the Professional Gamers League. PC games played at the CPL included the Counter-Strike series, Quake, StarCraft, and Warcraft. And so you're starting to see the esports business like have some solid ground. There's definitely something that is pushing a foundation for them to invest a lot of money and a lot of capital into building up this global business basically.
Yeah, these are all
Because
still played today. All these games, like in competitive like stuff. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And and that's like the beauty of games like Counter-Strike. There was no storyline. There was no like you have to like level up your guy really. It was all right, you all are playing on the same playing field. Here's a bunch of weapons and stuff. Go see who's the best. And when you have competitive sports like that are addictive like that, and let's be honest, you don't have to go exercise a whole lot to be good at a video game. Fair to say?
Yeah, I think so.
So is this a sport? Well, I mean, they're having championships, they're having tournaments, they have leagues. I mean, every sport out there has those things.
They've got tactics, the mental side of it.
Yep. And let's be honest, baseball, man, how many times like are those players like out of breath after the end of a game? Zero.
Yeah.
Because they're not running the whole time. They're running when the ball's hit to them, or they're running when they get a base hit, if they get a base hit. But most of the time, they're walking around. They're walking back and forth. They're sitting on the bench. They're standing out in the outfield, but most of the time they're just standing out there. So
Yeah.
how athletic is baseball? And can it be considered a sport if it's not that athletic? Well, that's the same argument we're kind of having here with esports, and with the flow of things going right now. We're what, in the 2000s, right?
Yep. 2000s.
Yep, 2000s.
2004
Like,
right here.
you're starting to see the foundation set for a business of a sport. I mean, if there weren't that many people interested in this or training in this, you would not see this many people come to a venue just to watch these guys play. There's something magical about what they do, right?
Yep.
Because they've trained so hard, they have these skills that normal people can't mimic because they can't spend into training those
They're
skills,
the
right?
best in the world at what it is that they do, and that's something special to watch. Pretty much whatever, no matter what it is that they're doing, people that are the best at what they do in the world, it's pretty incredible to see perform whatever it is that they're doing.
Right. It, like, we call them in the gaming world sweats, right?
Yeah.
Those are the sweats. And the reason we call them sweats is because they sweat almost to perfect their skill.
They play just that, basically.
They're the Kobe Bryants, they're the Michael Jordans. They're the ones that, first thing in the morning they're practicing. And yes, they practice. They practice to do these things. And some people will say they're not. Man, Froggy, I know when you stream, you do it for hours upon hours, sometimes 12, sometimes, well, you just had what,
36
30 hour or more?
36 hour, yeah, 36 hours.
36 hours straight, where you stop playing for 36 hours straight, which I applaud you, bro. Like, I'm gonna give you the golf clap on that one, because I don't know how you did it, because for me, I get fatigued. I get fatigued playing.
I did a
I
few
have
times
to take a break,
there.
and I can play for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's definitely some stamina involved with playing video games, and to keep your focus and perform at a high level when it's required. You don't think there's no pressure on those kids? There's a lot of pressure.
I mean, we ended that stream with our league games that we won all of.
Right.
And then I went to bed for a while.
I mean, they're under just as much pressure, if not more, on a MLB baseball player with 2 strikes, bottom of the 9th, and bases are loaded, and they're down by 3. That's a lot of pressure, and these guys feel the same pressure. But the difference is in 2000, they weren't getting paid to play.
Yeah, it was all for the love of it, basically.
Yeah, it was for the love of it, but they had to have parents, or they had to fund themselves to be a part of these tournaments, and they had to get their own hotel and all of that. And so it was a risk. It was a much bigger risk for them, because it was all on them. If they lost, they lost that money. They got a great experience, but they lost that money. Whereas nowadays, there's sponsors out there. There's actual funded leagues, and even companies out there that basically give you a salary, and you have to play the games they want you to play and stuff like that,
the way they want.
And I was even listening to another person's podcast. I forget what it was. Froggy, do you remember what it was called that I sent you? Where it was talking about the technology. It was one of the Razer execs.
Yeah, it was one of the Razer execs that we're talking about. The different technology and the different peripherals and things that different games used and different people used for different games. And I can't think of what his name was, but
anyways, he was even talking about when he goes to sponsor somebody or brings them onto their payroll, and they give them all this free stuff that they're making, and even prototype stuff that's not even out and whatnot. That relationship has to be pretty solid, because he doesn't want to sponsor somebody who's not going to use his stuff, right?
Yeah.
and that makes sense, right? But
Yeah.
also, like, we're at a point where these companies that are around because of esports are funding, these people to promote their stuff because they're good at esports.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in 2000, it wasn't like that, and I think people need to
Yeah.
have some reality of where we're at with esports now is way different than
Oh, yeah.
even 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And so going back to the tournament styles and stuff like that, a lot of times when you're dealing with multiplayer games and stuff like that, the biggest issue was how do you connect everybody? And the best way to connect everybody in modern time, and starting to see in 2000 and shortly after, was the internet. The invention of the internet was a long time ago, obviously, but where the internet was mainstreamed in houses and mainstreamed to handle
And the speed, the bandwidth.
speed, yeah, the lag, like, to not have the lag and be able to have these tournaments. So before the internet, kids, we've talked about this before, there were LAN parties, and
Oh, yeah.
you could connect multiple systems up through Ethernet cable, and you could basically play each other, but it would be in house. There would be no lag. It
Mhm.
wouldn't be online though. But now you start to see all games that are multiplayer are online, and that's because of the technology and where it was at that time. It was becoming big and affordable at home, and so this is when the what do you want to call it?
Growth, explosion.
The oil was poured onto the fire.
Yeah.
This is
Yep.
where it starts to spread like crazy
Because now
because of the
anyone
access
can,
everybody has.
yeah, anyone can all of a sudden become incredible if they have a game that they start playing when they're 5 or 15 or whatever. They can just jump online and play the best in the world from their home. They don't need to go to these big tournaments and stuff just to do that.
Yep, and it I mean, I remember when Halo 2 came out, and I played
yeah.
online multiplayer games like Ghost Recon and a few others before Halo 2 came out. But I remember when Halo 2 came out, and the lines of people waiting,
Oh, yeah.
because that was the first Halo game that was online. You could play your friends while they were at home, and you didn't have to do the LAN party thing. And it changed the game, literally and figuratively. It changed the game, and it basically allowed everybody to start, who is the best, not just in the neighborhood, but who's the best in the nation, who's the best in the state, who's the best in the nation, who's the best online. And so you wanted to dedicate a lot more time to getting better at it, playing with certain people, because you were so competitive. You couldn't play with noobs. That's where the term noob came from.
Yep.
Couldn't play with noobs because you were gonna lose, right? And if you were super competitive like I was, you didn't mess around with noobs. But anyways, so the fire is spreading, and we're starting to see a big boost in online gaming, whether it's on console or especially on PC. Go to the South Korean LAN gaming thing. Where's that? All right, so the growth of esports in South Korea, which South Korea, just so you guys know, is kind of like the birthplace of a lot of the competition gaming. Japan, China, South Korea, a lot of the Asian countries were the ones that made gaming competitively very popular. So South Korea is thought to have been influenced by the mass building of broadband internet networks following the 1997 Asian financial crisis. It is also thought that the high unemployment rate at the time caused many people to look for things to do while out of work. Instrumental to its growth of esports in South Korea was the prevalence of the Kamani style internet cafe / LAN gaming center, known as a PC bang. The Korean Esports Association, an arm of the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism, was founded in 2000 to promote and regulate esports in the country. Minister of Culture, Sports, and Tourism Park Jae-won coined the term esports at the founding ceremony of the 21st Century Professional Game Association, currently Korean Esports Association, in 2000. So that is where the term started. Esports was in 2000. And it was
4 years
basically,
ago.
if you guys don't know what a LAN gaming center is, we don't really, I mean, I've seen some in the United States, but in Korea and Japan, they basically have, like, think of it as kind of like a Starbucks, but instead of going there to buy coffee, you go there to use computers and the internet, and you basically pay, for
By hour
a
or
chunk of
something.
time. And then you have access to play the games and all of that stuff. And it was basically, the reason they built these was because it made it access to everybody in the public. Whereas if you have it at home, there's a lot of things you need to get to be able to have it at home. And when there was the financial crisis in Korea, like, people couldn't afford those types of things. And so this was kind of like their escape. And I know it wasn't even that much. It was kind of like going to the library. If you've ever gone to the library, like, you get to use the computers there. Like, my daughter was telling me she was playing Roadblocks at the library, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They allow you to game at the library? Seriously? Like, it's crazy. But
Yeah.
that just so you guys know, that's kind of what those LAN gaming centers are, and so it's really kind of cool that, it, and you'll kind of see a trend where video games really become a go-to place when it comes to financial crisis, or in the future from here, COVID, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah. Animal
But yeah,
Crossing.
well, and video games are kind of like that route to kind of get your dopamine fix, right? And get that good feel and get your mind off of the stress. I mean, I do it. I do it all the
Yep.
time. It takes my brain away from what I don't need to be thinking about. But it also takes my brain away with some things that I probably should be thinking about too. Let's be honest. Evo moment number 37 was the first memorable moment in a tournament. Okay, Froggy, can you talk about this? Because you actually might have watched this. I have not. So
yeah, I didn't watch this one live, but I can read this one here. I watch a lot of the more current ones, so most years I watch some of them. So it says Evo moment 37, also known as the Dago Parry, I think is how you say that, refers to a portion of a Street Fighter 3 Third Strike semifinal match held at Evolution Championship Series 2004, Evo 2004, between Diego Umahara playing Ken Masters and Justin Wong playing Chun-Li. During this match, Umihara made an unexpected comeback by parrying 15 consecutive hits of Wong's super art move while having only 1 pixel of vitality. Umihara subsequently won the match. Yeah, I mean, in fighting games, it's hard to parry once and not lose any health, let alone 15 times with a super art move. You have to time it like, the way fighting games are described now is speed chess. Like, it's chess because for every move that someone makes, there's a combo, there's a counter, there's a way to stop it and a way to go back from it. But you have to know all the attacks of every player, every character, everything that combos everything from every player that your player can do. And so this person had to know all that stuff and do it perfect without getting even blinked at with just 1 pixel of life left. That's crazy.
And it's described as the most iconic and memorable moment in the history of competitive video gaming. So, like, to do it on that platform where the pressure's on and to come through, like think of, like, you're down by the example I used earlier. You're down by 3, bases loaded, two strikes, and you hit a grand slam. That's
Yeah.
what that dude
Like at the
felt
World
in that
Series.
moment. Yes, game 7.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That I mean, it even compares it in here. It says it has been compared to the sports moments such as Babe Ruth's called shot and the miracle on ice. Like one of those. And I think if you're gonna be a true sport, like a professional sport, where there's gonna be people getting paid and they're gonna dedicate time and sacrifice things for their skill, that you gotta have moments like that, right? Like there's gotta be those magical
Definitely
moments. And if you watch sports, like you see those magical moments all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
Like every year in college football, there's always that underdog team that comes back and wins against, the big dogs. There's always that, upset championship game or whatever. Like if you're going to be considered a sport, you might not need them all the time, but you definitely need those memorable moments for it to survive as a sport.
Yeah, the young rookie that no one knows their name, all of a sudden they come out of nowhere and help lead their team to a championship, or things like that. Happens in video game stuff too all the time.
Thank you again for listening to this edition of Essence of Gaming. I'm Tribal Gamer. That's TRYBAL. Check me out on Facebook. Also go check out Frogman's streaming site on Twitch, Sylvir Gecko Gaming. That's SYLVIR Gecko Gaming. We are also on other platforms, and our podcast is on Spotify and YouTube with video. Please email us your feedback at eofgpodcast@gmail.com. That's eofgpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate your support. Have fun and game on.